Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates. Coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to welcome everybody to our program tonight. We're going to forego the Pledge of Allegiance and the National Anthem. We're coming on very late. It's already after 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We had an emergency here at the house that I had to help my wife with, and so we're coming on late this evening, and I'm sorry about that. Folks, we have a lot of things we need to talk about. First off, I'm going to talk about China. As you know, on Monday, China had what they determined was a 7.4 magnitude earthquake. As it turns out, it was an 8.0 magnitude earthquake. I explained all of that during the past few days. Now, as a result of that earthquake, there's a lot to talk about here. As a result of that earthquake, there's 144 people that have been killed. Over 4,000 people are homeless. Cattle, livestock that were raised in the hilly southwestern part of China have been killed as a result of that earthquake. There has been massive landslides also in China. Thousands still are in shelters, and they're in freezing and below freezing temperatures over there in China. Again, thousands of head of livestock are now dead. Aftershocks continue to pound the area. More than 100 aftershocks already today. 12,000 people have been displaced, relying on tents and shelters, lit bonfires to fend off the freezing weather. Early Tuesday this week, in a remote part of China's Xinjiang province, the earthquake killed 144 people. Initially, they thought there was only 30 people that have been killed, but there's over 144 people that lay dead today. Over 4,000 people are homeless. 12,000 people have been displaced because of this earthquake. The reason? One, it was a very, very unpopulated area. It was not a densely populated area. This area was mountainous, it was hilly, and it was an agricultural community. Also, because of the hilly area and the weather and the earthquakes, there have been landslides throughout the area. Here you see some rescue workers trying to pull people out of the rubble that devastated that one of the communities there. Huge cleanup going on. Supplies have been coming into the area by truckloads. Police and army troops from China are furiously trying to bring in supply trucks, for lack of a better word. They're trying to bring in as many supplies as they can get there. But this is in an isolated area, a very isolated mountainous part of China's southwestern province of Yunnan, Yunnan. Owing to the sparse population and the efforts in recent years to improve the durability of housing around this epicenter of the earthquake near Uchturpan County, Uchturpan County, near the border with Kyrgyzstan. Search and rescue operations continued today amid freezing temperatures and falling snow. State broadcaster CCTV showed footage of cranes lifting white box-like housing units and lined them up in an open field in Maipo, a village in Gansu province. Let me show you a picture of that. It's quite an effort that they're trying to pull in China. These people are desperate. They're desperate. Doggone it, I thought I had that picture. Oh, here it is. This is the picture of China's people trying to bring in literally shipping containers for people to live in. About 260 of these shipping boxes, housing units, have been erected, and a total in the village was expected to reach 500 across 9 sites by this morning. More than 1,000 rescuers were working at a site with the help of excavators and drones and rescue dogs. The mud from the landslides has risen as high as 3 meters, 10 feet in 2 of the villages in Qinghai province. Qinghai province has also been a place where we've seen earthquakes. This whole area in southwestern China is basically an earthquake-prone area. The mud that has swept down off the mountains has left only the rooftops of some buildings showing. Search teams, like I said, have used excavators to dig through the thick sea of mud that's covered the roads and the buildings, the homes in that area. The mud has also blocked entry points into the area, so the rescue vehicles are having a hard time getting in. At least several hundred livestock have already been killed as a result of these mudslides and the earthquake. The livestock were key to local livelihoods in this area. Footage shown by the state broadcaster showed evacuees eating instant noodles in tents, with bonfires providing heat. Local officials said they planned to check homes and houses that were still standing for stability before people could return. Now, winter weather is not over. Not in China, not in the United States and Europe. Let's switch over here and talk about the winter weather. Winter weather is everywhere, literally. Okay? We've all seen it in recent days. It's not over by any short term of a long shot. Okay? Over in England, this is in Ireland, where a tree fell on an automobile over there in Ireland. That was the result of a storm called Isha that hit Great Britain, Wales, Scotland, and Ireland during this past weekend. Officials said that during a winter storm, people should stay indoors. Stay indoors. Can I say that again? Stay indoors. People are freezing to death. Literally. People are freezing to death. People have gone out in the winter weather attempting to unbury their cars and their sidewalks of snow. And they have heart attacks out there. Normally healthy people have had heart attacks out in these freezing temperatures. Okay? We're warning people to stay inside as much as you possibly can. Officials say that during a winter storm, people should stay indoors, but home heating systems have been running for hours, can also cause for a risk of carbon monoxide poisoning, as the deadly fumes can be produced by furnaces and stoves and heaters. We talked about this early on in the week when one of our own over in South Dakota began to be concerned that their carbon monoxide detector was going off. They called me. I advised them to change the batteries. They said they recently changed the batteries in their smoke detector. Folks, whenever you change batteries to anything in your home, be sure to check all of your detectors, smoke detectors and your carbon monoxide detectors. Okay? Fortunately, she changed her batteries in the carbon monoxide detector. It started going off again. She wrote me back and said that the carbon monoxide detector was going off. I advised her to call the local fire department, which she did. The fire department came out and told her that the furnace of the building had caused the carbon monoxide levels to rise to 85%. 85% of the atmosphere in the apartments in that building were carbon monoxide. She said that I, because of my advice to her, saved over 10 people's lives this past weekend, saving them from carbon monoxide poisoning. Everyone, I advise everyone within the sound of my voice, make sure you are protected. Carbon monoxide is non-smelly. There is no odor from carbon monoxide. It's an odorless killer. Check your carbon monoxide detectors, or if you don't have one, get one. They're about $15 to $20 in Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot, and the other home improvement centers. Make sure you have one. Okay? Make sure you have one. Carbon monoxide can also be created when people use portable generators or run cars in their garages to stay warm or to charge their phones. Generators should not be operated inside homes for any reason. And heaven forbid, do not operate your car in a closed garage. Do not operate your car in a closed garage. That is the #1 cause for carbon monoxide in homes when it's attached to a garage. Now, I'm also going to talk about keeping your pets safe. We're not out of the winter weather yet. The polar vortex has calmed down. Right now we have no more Arctic weather, Arctic air coming out of Canada for the time being. But winter weather is not over. The meanest winter weather can still happen between now and the end of March. Freezing temperatures can be very dangerous to you and to your animals. If the weather is too cold for people, it's likely too cold for your pets. Keep them mostly inside whenever possible. The American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals recommends make sure when you take your pets outside that they only stay outside for a very short period. And if they go outside and they can tolerate wearing booties, wearing boots on their legs to protect their paws from very damp and very caustic temperatures that can freeze your animal's paws and cause them to lose their legs. Don't let them do that. Cars can hold in the cold like refrigerators when the temperatures dip, so please do not leave your pets alone in automobiles either. Animals that spend time outdoors should have access to shelter and unfrozen drinking water. Make sure your pets have access to unfrozen drinking water. That includes cattle and horses and goats and sheep and your rabbits. A lot of people raise rabbits. Make sure every one of those animals has access to water that's not frozen. Wipe down your dogs and pets' paws after walks outside because rock salt and other snow melting chemicals can irritate their feet and even cause salt poisoning. Antifreeze is a deadly poison, so wipe up any spills quickly and keep it out of reach of your children and your pets. Keep it out of reach of your children and your pets. Now, folks, I can't believe this. I want to switch over to San Diego. On Monday, there was a huge Pacific storm that plowed into California. From cities from San Francisco south, got nailed with snow and heavy rain. San Diego was among those areas. There were floods, and because of the big heavy floods, over 2.5 inches per hour of rain fell on places like San Diego. The rainwater picked up cars and put them on top of other cars. They damaged buildings, they damaged roads, they damaged vehicles, and they even swept people to their deaths. You need to know that. Flash floods inundated homes and businesses. It overturned cars in San Diego as heavy rains swept throughout much of the U.S. on the West Coast. And an astonishing 2.73 inches, 6.9 centimeters of rain fell on Monday in San Diego. San Diego normally gets about 2 inches or 5 centimeters on the average during an entire month in January. Monday and even Tuesday this week was also the city's rainiest days ever in January, according to records that date back to 1850. Neighbors outside their homes are surrounded by towering piles of debris and trash, literally everywhere. Let me bring you up another picture here to show you this. It's terrible, guys. This is terrible. People going through their belongings. Homes that were actually knocked down by flooding. People going through their belongings and finding only small tokens of what was left of their lives. Neighbors outside their homes surrounded by towering piles of debris and trash. Vehicles were swept away as people fled amid the torrents of water coursing through the Shelltown neighborhood of San Diego, which is near a drainage canal. Several other pockets of the city were also hit by the deluge of water. One lady's son that's pictured here. Her son waded through water up to his neck as he carried a toddler to safety. Dozens of cars, if not more, have been damaged or even destroyed by the rainfall and the flooding in San Diego County alone. Flash floods inundated homes and overturned cars on Monday and Tuesday as torrential rain swept through the large San Diego city, toppling trees, overflowing streets across California. Governor Gavin Newsom declared a state of emergency for San Diego County and Ventura County as well, which was hit by heavy rains and high surf that caused flooding. Unreal, guys. Totally unreal. This is a picture, and I'm going to blow it up here so you can see it. This is a picture of a seafood restaurant in La Jolla. Typically, this does not happen very often. This is a seafood restaurant called the Marine Room in San Diego in La Jolla. It got nailed by heavy waves. It got nailed by heavy rains and high surf that caused flooding. I was there at the Marine Room helping them to board up their windows that had been crashed through by the heavy surf. Governor Newsom said, quote, "I find that local authorities inadequate to cope with the magnitude of damage caused by these winter storms. The local authorities was the city of San Diego and the county of San Diego. Early morning flooding hit the town of Guerneville north of San Francisco, where a creek overflowed more than 4 inches of rain that fell in a 24-hour period. The local school district canceled classes for that day. Later, the weather system unleashed a severe punch on the south end of the state in the second major rain event during this winter, and the winter has just started. Much of the United States is still gripped by Arctic weather as Memphis, the city of Memphis, ladies and gentlemen, the city of Memphis was nailed by heavy rains and then snow. Snow, guys. Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis, Tennessee, you usually see people that have freezing rain, not heavy snow and freezing temperatures. Folks, it's unreal. It's literally unreal. Memphis had numerous broken water pipes, sub-freezing conditions and treacherous roadways, black ice that contributed to dozens of deaths this month alone across the entire United States, as far south as Texas, as far south as even central southern Texas, and even Florida. The panhandle of Florida remains gripped by deadly Arctic weather. Now that Arctic weather is now releasing its hold on the United States, but that Arctic weather is still playing havoc over in Europe. Sub-freezing conditions and treacherous roadways have contributed to dozens of deaths this month across the states and even as far south as Texas and Florida. It's now easing up as of this morning. Naturally, winter storms have claimed at least 72 lives across the United States already this month, many involving hypothermia or road accidents. Hypothermia is when the body is subjected to deadly cold conditions and the body is not able to recover from being cold. And most people, if they do not get adequate treatment, die. This past Sunday, crews in Memphis, Tennessee continued to work around the clock to find and fix broken pipes that were causing low water pressure throughout their system. Memphis Gas and Water President CEO Doug McGowan told reporters on Sunday afternoon that crews in Memphis are making progress, and he expected most of the 700,000 people that the utility services to have their water restored over the next 24 hours into Monday evening into Tuesday. He said if they remained on this positive path that they were on, and he did say they were on a positive path. He said they believe by yesterday that they will have the pressure up in the water system sufficient for them to take samples of their water. And if the samples got good results yesterday, they could lift the advisory that they had had since Sunday to boil water. Sunday, they started boiling water in Memphis because they had so many water mains break. Incredible, guys. Incredible. McGowan also asked people to stop dripping their faucets to help build up pressure in the system. Remember, we told everyone to start dripping water in their faucets to keep their pipes from freezing. Now, they're saying in Memphis for people to not drip their water any longer. Memphis Light, Gas and Water was repairing 10 water main breaks. He expects to see more as the ground continues to thaw. The utility said it previously repaired 41 broken water mains and located more than 4,000 leaks at homes and businesses. Forecasters are warning home and business owners as far south as northern Illinois to wrap or drain outdoor water pipes. Wrap or drain your outdoor water pipes if you live up in the northern tier of states to prevent damage to your water pipes outside. Another strategy is again to allow your faucets to drip slowly if you are in freezing conditions. Much of the U.S. remains gripped by deadly Arctic weather, but like I said, the Arctic weather that had been coming out of Canada has slowed down. It has slowed down. In Minnesota, as other states as far as south as Tennessee, the police departments and other agencies had handed out supplies to homeless people and offered them rides to shelters. On Saturday, if you folks don't already listen to it, I would highly advise you to occasionally listen to or watch Live on Patrol, which is on Facebook Watch. Live on Patrol, which is on Facebook Watch. Police and sheriff's deputies from Minnesota put up a live on patrol video for several hours, allowing everyone to see what is going on around the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. Deputies of the Sheriff's Office and the Minneapolis-St. Paul area police on Friday and Saturday were handing out gloves and offering the homeless a warm place to shelter in until the cold weather abated. The winter blasts in much of the U.S. poses serious risks like black ice, frostbite, and, like I said, hypothermia. Wind chill is defined by what the air temperature feels like to human skin from the combination of wind speed and temperature. It is expected to be in the single digits in parts of the southern U.S., including the Florida Panhandle, but that is getting warmer. I was talking to NCWQ Explorer, and by the way, happy birthday to Rebecca, NCWQ Explorer. It's her birthday today. Also, if you can, and you can support her, folks, she needs some help. She's had tremendous car problems, and she's tried to abate some of those car problems with money from herself. But she's having some issues. She's running low on money to be able to pay her rent for February. So those of you that can see clear to help her, donate to NCWQ Explorer. She does, I believe, have a PayPal site. And I also believe she has one other method where everybody can support her. So please do that. She needs our help. Happy birthday to Rebecca, and we want to say thank you to her family that have been helping her. In other places this week, it still will drop below zero. Portions of Kansas will feel like 15 degrees below zero Fahrenheit. That's 26 degrees, minus 26 degrees Celsius. On this past Saturday, according to the Weather Service, it got deadly cold. Forecasters say the risk of developing frostbite and hypothermia increases as the wind chill temperature falls. So when you get blizzard conditions at 40 to 45 mile per hour winds with that snow, the falling snow and the moving snow, you can easily have hypothermia and frostbite, and you can die. Like I said near the beginning of this broadcast, you need to stay indoors as much as possible. Again, hypothermia occurs when the body's stored energy is used up, causing the body's temperature to drop. People who remain outdoors for long periods of time, such as those that are homeless, are particularly at risk. A series of storms before this weekend's cold temperatures and cold weather was to blame for at least 55 deaths across the United States and even more in Europe. Many of those deaths involving hypothermia. In Tennessee, a 25-year-old man was found dead on the floor of a mobile home in Lewisburg, Tennessee, after a space heater overturned and turned off. Bob Marshall, the chief deputy for the Marshall County Sheriff's Office, said there was ice on the walls of his mobile home. Though less serious, frostbite is also a concern in cold weather. It occurs when skin and sometimes underlying tissues of the body freezes. I have seen this. I've seen those tissues turn black. To prevent it, the American Academy of Dermatology advises people they're going outside to dress in layers and wear 2 pairs of socks, a heavy wool or fleece hat that covers the ears, and a face mask or a scarf with insulated mittens or gloves, just like the sheriff's office and the police departments in Minneapolis and St. Paul were handing out to the homeless as they were bringing them to shelters. The American Academy of Dermatology also advises people to stay hydrated and to avoid alcohol. In Atlanta, city officials announced 2 sites where people can go to stay warm, and those sites will remain open through this next weekend in the event that the temperature drops again. In other areas, such as bitterly frigid air from Canada and the wind, will make it feel like minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 34 degrees Celsius outside. Much of the United States this past weekend remained gripped by deadly Arctic weather, with sub-freezing conditions reaching as far south as southern central Texas and Florida. But the numbing cold is expected to ease up now. I talked to Rebecca, NCWQ Explorer, earlier today, and she said that they had 70-degree plus temperatures in southern North Carolina. That's incredible, because just this past weekend we were down in the teens and single digits, even here. Okay? Freezing rain, sleet, and high wind gusts made traveling through parts of Kansas and Oklahoma especially treacherous. Wind chills in Iowa made it feel like minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 7 degrees Celsius. That's incredible. Last Tuesday, as this weather was getting started, the United States was having its first Iowa primary, what they called an Iowa caucus, to elect the next president. Freezing and below freezing temperatures in Iowa. And then, yet this past Tuesday, 2 days ago, in New Hampshire, they had the nation's second election primary. In New Hampshire and Maryland and the northeastern part of the United States, they still had freezing and sub-freezing temperatures. The end of sub-zero temperatures, which blasted the United States this past weekend, is in sight for the rest of this country now. The daily high in Iowa's capital of Des Moines, for example, were expected to stay above freezing starting Monday. The National Weather Service said things had started warming up starting even yesterday, Wednesday, with no additional replenishment of Arctic air from Canada. A steady warm-up is in store for the midsection of the country. Now, like I said, over in Ireland they had a storm called Isha plow into Ireland. Freezing rain and even some snow over in Britain. Wales, Scotland, Ireland, that whole area got nailed. Iceland got nailed. Okay? Isha battered Britain, Ireland, and Wales, leaving tens of thousands without power. Tens of thousands of people without electricity, and hundreds of trains had been canceled after the waves of winter storms lashed Britain and Ireland with heavy rain and wind gusts of almost 100 miles per hour. The Met Office Weather Service in Britain issued an unusual blanket wind warning for the entire country before Isha even started, before it even reached its peak overnight. 2 motorists were killed. Tens of thousands of people were left without electricity, and hundreds of trains were canceled on Monday and into Tuesday after the latest winter storm lashed Britain and Ireland with heavy rain, wind gusts that topped 100 miles per hour, 160 kilometers per hour. The wind. The storm littered roads and railways with downed trees that created deadly hazards and blocked travel, disrupting the morning commutes. On Sunday night, an 84-year-old male passenger in a car in Scotland and a van driver in his 60s in Northern Ireland were killed when their vehicle was struck by toppled trees. The British Weather Service issued an unusual wind warning for the whole country before Storm Isha came in. That peaked overnight into Monday with winds exceeding forecasts for 90 miles per hour, 145 kilometers per hour gusts. The Tay Road Bridge, which is almost 1.5 mile, 2.2 kilometer span over the River Tay, the estuary in Scotland, recorded 170 mile per hour gusts, 172 kilometer per hour gusts. Incredible. They issued us on social media a wind warning. A 90 mile per hour gust was recorded at Brisley Wood radar station in northeastern England. Britain and Ireland braced Sunday as Storm Isha unleashed rain and potentially deadly winds that were expected to batter a wide swath of land and also in the ocean. And it disrupted travel into the start of the work week this week. The Met Office and National Weather Service issued an unusual blanket wind warning for nearly all of Britain and possibility of a tornado in Northern Ireland. A tornado in Northern Ireland this time of year, and parts of Northern England and Scotland. There is a potential for danger to life and some damaging winds, potentially leading to some power outages in areas of Britain. Some large waves along the coastal regions of Britain brought debris into roadways and trees came down. Incredible. The forecast was gusts that could reach 90 miles per hour, 145 kilometers per hour in Britain. It was realized by mid-afternoon on Sunday in the mountainous Snowdonia region of Wales. Parts of the UK have been hammered since early fall by a series of gusty and wet storms that toppled trees, knocked out power, and led to flooding along the river valleys. Isha is the 9th storm that's been named since September. The railway operator for Scotland halted train service Sunday night and into Monday's rush hour. Network Rail, which owns the railway infrastructure in England, Scotland, and Wales, said it was placing speed limits on most rail lines to prevent engines from running into fallen trees and other debris, and trains would be affected into Monday and Monday afternoon's commute. In the west part of Ireland, counties of Donegal, Galway, and Mayo were warned of extreme, strong, and possibly destructive gusts from the Sunday afternoon storm into the morning. People were told to stay away from the coast of Britain and Ireland and Wales. Now, if that wasn't enough, guess what, guys? Winter is not over. Winter is not over. Now, I know we've not talked a lot about this before. I want to talk about air transportation, literally around the world. Airlines cannot control the weather. But the airlines are still required to provide refunds for customers whose flights are canceled. Now, I'm going to I'm going to give you information here that you might want to use. Winter weather is not over, and usually this weather might continue into the spring and even summer months. Airlines can't control the weather, but they are required to provide refunds for customers whose flights are canceled. Here's what you need to know about your rights and what to do and how to know about cancellations that start piling up. If you get canceled from, say, New York to Boston or New York to England, if your flight is canceled, that flight could mount to other cancellations all over the world. When airlines expect bad weather, it creates flight problems. Airlines often give travelers a chance to reschedule their trip by a few days or at no extra fee. You need to get on the internet. Google or DuckDuckGo your airline and travel alerts, or use similar phrases to see their offers. Check before going to the airport. Check online before you go to the airport. Check and make sure your flight's still on time. Make sure your flight is not canceled or even delayed. It's better to be stuck at home or in a hotel than to be stranded at an airport terminal, or even to be stranded in the terminal in a chair that's very uncomfortable. And if you have children, that could even mount up to more problems for you and your family. So it's check with your airline's app on your phone or at your computer before you leave home. Check the Flight Aware website to make sure your flight is still on before heading out to the airport. Airlines usually cancel flights hours or even days before departure times. Now, you might ask, my flight was canceled, now what? If you're already at the airport, it's time to multitask to find another flight. Get in line to speak to an airline representative. And you might want to call or go online to connect to the airline's reservation staff. It also helps to reach out on Twitter, or X as they now go by. Reach out on X, the site normally known as Twitter. Most airlines will rebook you on a later flight for no additional charge. Now that depends, however, on the airline having empty seats. The good news for travelers this week is that they stand a better chance of finding space in January than even during Thanksgiving or Christmas, when passengers can wait days for even an open seat. You can, but airlines aren't required to put you on another carrier's flight. I did that coming home from a disaster drill several years ago. I did not want to get stuck in Atlanta, Georgia. So I went up to the counter because there was a winter storm coming into Atlanta then. It was November. I didn't want to get stuck. They said their flight was canceled, and there was only one other flight leaving that airport in the next 20 minutes. I asked them if I could get on that flight. It was for another carrier. They checked, they had 2 seats left. So I literally ran from that counter all the way across the airport terminal to get to the next open gate. And I got there in the nick of time right before they closed the gate. So your airline can put you on a partner airline. But even then, it's often a hit or miss. Jeff Cline, who's CEO of cheapair.com, he recommends researching alternate flights while you wait to talk to an agent. Check other alternate flights while you wait to talk to an agent for your airline. Now, you might also be asking, am I owed a refund? If you no longer want to take the trip, or you found alternate means of getting where you're going, the airline is legally required to pay a refund, even if you bought a non-refundable ticket. It doesn't matter why the flight was canceled. They can't stick you with a voucher. You can get your money back. That means you have to cancel your entire reservation. But that could be an easy option for some travelers, especially if you wind up booking a flight on another carrier. You're also entitled to a refund of any bag fees, your seat upgrades, or other extras that you didn't get to use. Now, Another question that you might ask. U.S. airlines are not required to pay compensation, even if the cancellation is their fault, such as, and this has happened to me, the lack of a crew, and they canceled the flight. A mechanical problem, which has also happened to me. A mechanical problem that grounds the plane, or a computer outage. Now, I've been in places that have had airline and FAA computer outages that ground the aircraft, that bring the airline to a halt. However, the Transportation Department is working on a proposal to change that when the airline is at fault. Now, I know how frustrated people are with the service that we get from our U.S. airlines, or even the airlines overseas. That's why our top priority has been to make sure that we get American air travelers a better deal. It's our top priority. It should be the airline's top priority to get you to where you want to go and get you a better deal. Now, what else will airlines cover? There is no federal requirement that the airlines pick up the cost of hotel rooms or meals for stranded passengers. They have picked up hotel rooms and meals for me on various flights. Each airline has its own policies. U.S. Department of Transportation has a site that lets commuters see the commitments that each airline makes for refunds and covering other expenses when flights are canceled or significantly delayed. If this weather forecast is troubling, consider booking a backup flight. If your weather forecast is troubling, consider booking a backup flight. Okay? They say the different travel sites on the internet say that Southwest and Delta Airlines stand out as potential backups because they let customers cancel for a full refund as long as they cancel within 24 hours of booking. Southwest and Delta stand out as potential backups because they let customers cancel for a full refund as long as the cancellation goes within 24 hours of booking. Other airlines only allow that when you book at least 2 or even 7 days in advance. If you are in a group and one person belongs to a higher level of the airline's frequent flyer program, use the number associated with that person to call the airline. If lots of flights are canceled, airline agents will soon be swamped. Try calling your airline's international help number, usually available online. These agents can make changes to your itinerary as well. Now, you need to remember this. You need to remember to be nice. To be nice. Andrew Golden just gave us another $20 super chat. Thank you, Andrew. God bless you for that. He says, support your local police. They are there who support you. And Andrew is right. As a police officer for 24 years, my philosophy is, as in probably 95% of other police officers on the street, our philosophy is we are there to support you. Police are there to support you. I was always there no matter what for anybody. When I was a cop, I remained on the beat, especially when people's lives were in danger or when one specific person in my area needed help. I made sure that my police captain was made aware of the problem and allowed me to stay there until we could get that person help. Please understand that. Police are there for you. Okay? NCWQ Explorer says she worked for the sheriff's office for 8 years. And I know she did. She's one of the most outstanding type of police officers that we could have. Anyway, you need to be nice when dealing with the airlines. Be nice. The agents that you're talking to are probably dealing with lots of other frustrated travelers. And screaming at the agent will not make them want to help you. Cancellation isn't their fault. It's their airline's fault. You need to be nice to the agents that are trying to help you. Now, after all that, we talked last night at the end of our broadcast about solar flares. Folks, we've now additionally had 8 solar flares in the past 48 hours. 8 solar flares in the past 48 hours. Radio blackouts and geomagnetic storms are likely. They will start hitting this planet within the next 24 hours through this entire weekend. So, police, fire, paramedics, and ham radio operators need to be aware that you will experience crackling on your radio frequencies. Crackling and static on your radio frequencies. Ham radio operators, the same thing. Those of us that are on FRS radios, Family Radio Service walkie-talkie, such as this walkie-talkie here, you may also experience this crackling on the radio. Be kind. Be kind. It's not the other person's fault that they don't understand you. The crackling might be really bad where they're at. FRS, ham radio, general mobile radio service radios, police, fire, paramedic radios especially. Now, that's not all, folks. There's more. Airline pilots, air to ground. Air traffic control to airlines in the air. They will also experience this crackling. They also have data dropouts. Data dropouts. Police and fire departments that have computers in their vehicles will have data dropouts as a result of these solar flares that have gone off from the sun. Geomagnetic storms and auroras will be present all weekend long. So those of you that live in the Northern Territories up in the United States and Canada, and even up in England, Iceland, Scandinavia, parts of Europe, you folks are going to see these auroras. They're absolutely stunning. I've seen them before. I've also seen pictures of other auroras. They're spectacular. But be aware, other people will be affected by the solar flares. Also, people will medically be affected by these solar flares. These solar flares are plasma radiation. The plasma radiation will travel over millions of miles. There is a high-speed solar wind right now, and some of that plasma radiation has already reached the Earth. Also, air-to-ground NASA, Houston, Texas, to space station, and Roscosmos in Russia and Moscow are going to have problems speaking to the astronauts in space. The International Space Station has a special area of the space station, so the astronauts will not be subject to the high radiation that is hitting the space station. They're pretty protected there. But radio communications and radio data dropouts are going to be common all weekend long. So you need to be aware of that. Those of us that are on the internet, we will also experience that. People on the earth are also affected by the solar weather, the plasma radiation that hits the surface of the earth. Our bodies are not made to function with a lot of radiation. It affects us mentally. It affects us mentally. And those people that have handicaps, please bear with them. Help them if necessary. They're already struggling. They may need our help. Don't turn them down. Help them. Help them. Please. Demon Catman is here in the chat, and I appreciate Dean. Dean is an awesome man. He's telling us about another 5.0 in southwestern China. They have had over 700 aftershocks. Over 700 aftershocks since the main 7.1, 7.5 earthquake hit. There was really an 8.0. They're still having aftershocks hit. Unreal, guys. Absolutely unreal. Now, besides that, over in southeastern New Zealand, had another earthquake. This time it was a 5.1 earthquake. And that orange earthquake right beside it was a 4.3. NCWQ Explorer says, yeah, that Chinese earthquake was over a 7.0, 7.1. That was an 8.0 earthquake, and I've proven it. I've proven it scientifically. Anyway, New Zealand had a 5.1 earthquake, a large 5.1 earthquake today. Folks, they don't get these usually. This is 26 kilometers east-southeast of Dannevirke, D-A-N-N-E-V-I-R-K-E, New Zealand. Okay? Southeast or east-southeast of Dannevirke, New Zealand, of 5.1. And that was not the only earthquake that hit there. It was not the only earthquake that hit there. Just a second, let me show you something. Look at all the other earthquakes that hit. These earthquakes I'm showing you right now are over in the islands north of there. Okay? They're Kermadec Islands. These islands are not inhabited by anything but birds. Okay? In the Kermadec Islands, a 4.17 earthquake here. A 4.17 earthquake in the Kermadec Islands. South of there, just north of the Bay of Plenty, what's commonly referred to as the Catcher's Mitt, a 3.37 earthquake there. South of there, two other earthquakes in the Bay of Plenty, a 2.63. Right next to it, just southeast of there, a 2.48. Then, south of the Bay of Plenty on land, this is a 2.26 earthquake. A 2.26 earthquake. Then we have those earthquakes near Dannevirke, okay? A 2.4, a 3.26, a 2.23, a 2.43, and a 2.58. 5 aftershocks. 5 aftershocks as a result of this 5.1 earthquake near Dannevirke, New Zealand. Okay? Then, not only that, but closer to shore is a 3.8 earthquake. A 3.8 earthquake here. Okay, so they've had their share of earthquakes. That's just on the North Island. Over on the eastern side of the Cook Strait, we have a 2.77 earthquake there. A minor earthquake in the water. The water absorbed the shock waves of that quake. A 2.77 is just a minor earthquake. Most people will not even feel that. Okay? But just north of there, Marlborough, New Zealand, a 2.28 minor earthquake. A 2.28 minor earthquake. I wonder what's happening. Okay? Then, just south of Christchurch, near Canterbury, New Zealand, a 2.2 earthquake there. 2.28 earthquake there. Then, over on the southwest side of New Zealand, on the South Island, a 3.0 earthquake there. South Park, New Zealand, a 3.0 earthquake there. Incredible. New Zealand had a 5.1 large earthquake and another dozen earthquakes around it, coming from as far north as the Kermadec Islands and going south into South Park. A dozen earthquakes. Incredible, huh? That's not all, folks. There's more. There's a lot more. Let's briefly show you those earthquakes. Okay? We just got through showing you earthquakes down here in New Zealand. USGS shows us a 5.1 and the 4.3 near Danneberg, New Zealand there. Do they show anything else? Heck no. Heck no. They showed this one in the Kermadec Islands. This was also a 5.1 here. This 5.1 here hit at 5:28 a.m. this morning. This was not here 4 hours ago. I checked. So USGS just put this one up. Okay? Going up into Tonga. This was southeast of Oahuna, Tonga. This was also a 5.1 earthquake. 10 kilometers deep. A very shallow earthquake. Over here is also west-northwest of Oahuna, Tonga. This is a 4.1 moderate earthquake. This is a deep earthquake. This is 393 kilometers deep. 393 kilometers deep. This is going to result in a propagation, meaning this earthquake being that deep and being a moderate 4.3 is going to result in a 5.0 earthquake happening sometime within the next 10 days, probably within the next 72 hours, especially since we've had those 8 solar flares within the last 48 hours. Going over here to Papua New Guinea area, another large 5.0. This one's 68 kilometers deep. We go over just south of Java. This is another 4.9, 5.0 earthquake. This earthquake is a very shallow earthquake, 23 kilometers deep. We go over here to northern Indonesia, Manado, Indonesia. This again is a 4.4 moderate earthquake, a fairly deep earthquake, a 242 kilometer deep earthquake. As a result, this earthquake is going to generate another 5.0 large earthquake, probably sometime within the next 72 hours to 10 days, 3 to 10 days. Okay? Going over here to China, Again, we keep having aftershocks. Aftershocks. This is the newest aftershock here. This is a 5.0 earthquake. They have this as a 4.9, but you know it's been downgraded. This is another 5.0 earthquake. And of course, they're not showing all the aftershocks either. This is just the aftershocks that they want to show us. Okay? Right here, this is a 5.2. Going north here, a 4.3. But folks, there's another earthquake here. This is northeast of there. This one is Kuga, China. K-U-Q-U, China. Or K-U-G-U, China. A 4.4 earthquake here. Heidi Petrick just gave us another $2 super chat. Heidi, thank you ever so much. God bless you for that. We appreciate all of you who help support this channel. Whether you give us super chats or whether you give us donations on PayPal or Venmo, we greatly appreciate it. We really do. God bless you for that. We love you and appreciate you all very much. But anyway, China's getting nailed. China's getting nailed heavily. This area is also susceptible to earthquakes. This is where 90% of earthquakes happen in China. Xinjiang, China. Okay? Down here, south of there in Afghanistan, they're also getting hit. This is a moderate 4.3 earthquake. This is also 96 kilometers deep. Still a fairly shallow earthquake. But again, does USGS show us any earthquakes around Europe? Heck no. They don't believe they have to. They don't believe they have to. Over in South America, we had a large earthquake that hit here, Calama, Chile, earlier today. This happened at 3:35 a.m. this morning. A 5.4 earthquake here. This was 118 kilometers deep. They are also not showing all the earthquakes here. There are about 20 earthquakes here in South America. This is a 4.2 earthquake just southeast of Calama. This is in San Antonio de los Cobres, Argentina. A 4.2 earthquake. This is a little bit deeper. This is 202 kilometers deep. There's more earthquakes in southern Peru. There's another earthquake in Ecuador. And two or three more in Colombia, as well as a dozen earthquakes over in Chile today. But of course, they're not going to show them, are they? Heck no. They're showing one earthquake here in Central America. Interesting. Actually, they're showing this as southern Mexico, but there's 5 or 6 earthquakes in Central America. This earthquake is another 4.0 moderate earthquake in southern Mexico. Let's go over to Central America. I want to show you what's going on there. Look at these earthquakes here. Let's start down south in Central America. Okay? A 4.3 in southern Costa Rica. Going north, another 3.1. 4.3, 3.1. Almost right next to it is a 3.5. Okay? Going north, Nicaragua, a 2.5. Right next to it, El Salvador, a 3.6. 3.6. 5 earthquakes in Central America. USGS doesn't show any one of those 5. They show one earthquake in southern Mexico. Folks, let me show you something. There's at least 15 earthquakes in the southernmost part of Mexico. 15 earthquakes, 3s and 4s throughout southern Mexico, right there. There's more earthquakes further north. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 earthquakes further north. So we have almost 30 earthquakes in southern Mexico. 30 earthquakes in southern Mexico. East of Manzanillo, a 3.2 and a 3.8 in Jalisco, Mexico. Okay? Going south, Michoacan, a 3.8. South of there, off the coast. South of there, off the coast. Folks, this is a 3.4 earthquake. A 3.4 earthquake. Right there. Again, 3s and 4s all over this area right here. USGS does not want to take any idea that they're going to report earthquakes here, right? Almost 30 earthquakes in South America or in South Mexico, and they show 1. And they miss showing 5 others in Costa Rica. What's up with that? Now, we spoke of a moderate earthquake in the Gulf of California yesterday on our program. They're still showing 2 earthquakes here in the Gulf of California. 3 earthquakes that just happened. 1 more earthquake must have just happened, or they just put it up. This is a 4.3, 78 kilometers east-northeast of Laredo, Mexico. Earthquake right here in the middle is another 4.5. Just barely north and west of there is a 4.6. But folks, they're missing 1. They're actually missing 2 more. Over in northern Mexico, this is not on the Baja. This is on the main part of Mexico. This is a 3.7 earthquake. 3.7 earthquake. And 1 earthquake more north of those other 3 is another 3.5 earthquake here. A 3.5 earthquake. They're showing 3, there's 5. 5 earthquakes there. Not to be outdone, south of the U.S.-Mexican border. South of the U.S.-Mexican border. In Victoria, Guadalupe, Victoria, Mexico. This is a 3.8 earthquake. Guadalupe, Victoria, Mexico. This is the same location where we had a 7.1 earthquake in 2010. Guadalupe, Victoria, Mexico. Going north. Holtville. Remember us telling you about earthquakes in Holtville? Yesterday we showed you the seismogram. Guess what? Guess what, folks? There's more. More earthquakes in Holtville. This time, USGS is not showing that one. They're showing another one closer to Westmoreland. There is an earthquake down here in Holtville. Holtville is right here. Okay? Holtville, California. This is a 2.08 earthquake, minor earthquake in Holtville. Demon Catman says Obama made an executive order telling them not to report or to downgrade. Can't they have slaves not earning them money due to panic, can we? Yeah, pretty much. So we have a 2.08 in Holtville, down at the Salton Sea Desert Research Station in Holtville. Interesting, huh? Look at this earthquake here. On the southern side of the Salton Sea, at the Salton Sea. This is a 2.6. This is a 2.6 west-northwest of Calipatria. A minor 2.6 earthquake here. Now, If I brought you all of the seismograms that we have for this area, Westmoreland down here to the southwest, Calipatria, Imperial, El Centro, I could probably show you another 100 earthquakes or more. They're showing one. I just showed you on the EMSC map another one in Holtville. If I brought you all 5 seismograms, I bet you we could show you another 100 earthquakes. That's normal. That's normal for this area. They happen all the time. But now, the stupid agency has no qualms about not telling people about it. Usually there's about 10 earthquakes up here in the Anza-Borrego Desert area. They're not showing any at all. Some of the time over here in Alpine or in Julian, we have another 3 or 4 earthquakes here. They're not showing those either. So right here, just in this area of East San Diego County and Northeast San Diego County at the Anza-Borrego Desert area here, between that and Imperial, now we have probably over 125 earthquakes every day, and they're showing one. I showed you yesterday over here in Los Angeles area, there were probably 80 earthquakes in the LA area. They showed us none. We had some good-sized earthquakes over into the East LA area. Incredible. Walnut La Puente, which is a volcanic caldera. We had about 6 3.0, 3.5 earthquakes just right there, as well as other minor earthquakes and tremors all over Los Angeles. And they don't want to show them there. So there's probably another 20 earthquakes here in LA that they're not showing us. And about 3 or 4 earthquakes up and down the San Andreas Fault here. They're also not showing us. Also out here, just off the Garlock Fault, we have one earthquake here, a 2.5 the USGS is showing us in the Searles Valley. Usually there's 3 or 4, maybe 5 earthquakes here. And over here on the Garlock Fault, Boron, California, where they're mining for borax down here in these mines in the desert. There's usually 2 or 3 earthquakes here. Another 1 or 2 over here in Tehachapi. They're not showing any, are they? More earthquakes over here along the San Andreas Fault. Why are they not showing them? Usually just south of the Monterey Bay near San Francisco. There's at least 4 or 5 earthquakes here in the Pinnacles. How about the earthquake capital of California, Parkville, California? Usually there's some tremors and or minor earthquakes there. Monterey Bay, they're not showing any here. Tres Pinos, for one. Tres Pinos, California, just east of Monterey Bay, usually has some 2.5s to 4.5 earthquakes. They're not showing them here. South of San Francisco Bay, we usually have at least 3 or 4 earthquakes here. Alum, California, on a fault. On a fault, guys. The Hayward Fault. They're not showing any earthquakes here. East of there, on the Calaveras Fault, they're not showing any earthquakes there. Why not? 100 miles north of San Francisco is the geysers. Usually there's 20 or 30 earthquakes here. These earthquakes are caused by seismicity earthquakes that find these deep holes in the ground where men have drilled into the upper magma chambers of this lake. This lake is Clear Lake Volcano. The geysers just south of there. Because they drill into this volcano, seismic energy searches out these man-made earthquake faults, these drill points. There's 20 or 30 earthquakes here by itself. They're not showing those earthquakes there either. Interesting. Over here, this is the Gorda Escarpment, just west of the Cascadia subduction zone and west of the San Andreas Fault. Yes, folks, the San Andreas Fault comes up here. This is where it starts. The San Andreas Fault links up with the Cascadia subduction zone and the Gorda Escarpment. Right here on the Gorda Escarpment, we had a 3.0 earthquake today. A 3.0 earthquake today. Interesting, huh? Very interesting. Folks, they've taken down the other two earthquakes that were here. Two other earthquakes, a 2.4 and a 3.5 that were right here. Right here. Just west and south of the triple junction, the Cascadia subduction zone, the San Andreas Fault, and the Garlic Fault. This area is called the Mendocino Fault area. That's why there were two other earthquakes here that they've taken down. Now, there's also one other earthquake up here to the north. This is Hayfork, California. This is a 2.6 earthquake. A 2.6 earthquake here. Okay? Not to be outdone. But there's even more earthquakes here to the north. Earlier this week on Monday, we showed you earthquakes all over the Cascade Mountain Range. The Cascade Mountain Range is a range of volcanoes extending from up here in Canada, up here in Vancouver, Canada, Vancouver Island, stretching down through Washington, Oregon, and into Northern California. Each of these volcanoes has earthquakes, some as small as a 1.2 tremor, ranging all the way up to 3.5, 4.0 earthquakes at these volcanoes. Not to be outdone. Other areas of Washington and Oregon have what they call the slow slip. There's probably another 100 earthquakes here that they are not even showing us. They're not even showing us. Folks, there's a lot more. There's a lot more. Miss Elsa says Mount Rainier is one she's watching right there. We're up in Alaska now. There's a lot more earthquakes than they're showing up here, even in Alaska. Down here in the southern Gulf of Alaska, there's a 3.0 earthquake here. Almost straight northwest from there. King Salmon, Alaska. What's right here? This is 84 kilometers east-southeast of King Salmon, Alaska. What is going on right here? Folks, there's a volcano here. And they're not showing even the minorest earthquake here. Usually there's 6 to 8 tremors and earthquakes here at Old Ililama Volcano. They're showing one west of there, a 2.8 earthquake, a minor earthquake. Old Ililama Volcano is sometimes steaming. Up here we have Mount Redoubt. Usually we have at least 6 or 8 earthquakes here. They're not showing any here. Mount Redoubt is steaming. Mount Redoubt is an active volcano. Unreal, they're not showing anything. They're not showing any earthquakes or tremors anywhere near Anchorage, Alaska here. They're not showing anything. There are tremors and earthquakes all over this area. There's usually 15 or 20 earthquakes here in this area alone. Going north, Sauceton, Alaska. They're calling this North Alaska. It's not. This is Southern Alaska. This has nothing to do with North Alaska. This is a 2.5 earthquake. North of there. This is a 2.5 earthquake here as well. Interesting, huh? Over here, almost straight west. This is a southern Denali area, a 2.6. They're calling this 78 kilometers west-northwest of Skeetna, Alaska. This is southern Denali. Usually we have 5 or 6 earthquakes here in Denali National Park. They're not showing any. Further east here, this is a 3.4. This is in the eastern Denali National Park area. This is a small 3.4 earthquake. Almost directly north, this is Salcha, Alaska. We had a 5.0 earthquake here last week. Today, we have a small 3.3 aftershock. We had 3 aftershocks here yesterday. Going north, this is Beaver, Alaska. Beaver, Alaska. Every once in a while we'll get some tremors here in Beaver. This is a 2.6 minor earthquake here. We go almost directly west. This is Hughes, Alaska. This is a 2.6 minor earthquake here. Interesting, but this is not all the earthquakes that are hitting here. They're missing about 40 earthquakes. Typically we get about 60 earthquakes here in the main part of Alaska. They don't want to tell us about it. Over here near Attu Station, Alaska, the Aleutian Island area, western Aleutian Islands, we have a 4.7 minor earthquake here. 4.7. Folks, somewhere between here and the Alaska Peninsula, we have a major lockdown of earthquakes. Earthquakes are all locked up in this area. Folks, we've been having an extraordinary amount of very large earthquakes, very strong 6s, and even 7s, all down in the southwestern Pacific area. The seismic area of the seismic energy has gotten up here. It's locked up over here, somewhere between Atka, Alaska and the Alaska Peninsula. Yes, we have volcanoes all over here. Some of those volcanoes are showing signs that they're getting ready to erupt. Is the USGS going to tell us about it? Probably not. I am connected to the USGS Volcanic Observatory. If I get any notifications, I will let you know. Over here west along the Kamchatka Peninsula, we have a moderate 4.7 earthquake here. This is east-northeast of Petropavlovsk, Russia. a moderate 4.7 earthquake that's 87 kilometers deep. South of there in the Kuril Islands, we have a moderate 4.6 earthquake here. The Kuril Islands belongs to Russia here. A 4.6, 85 kilometers down in that area. Over here in northern Honshu Island, Japan, we have a 4.6 earthquake here. It's interesting. It's very interesting that they're showing one earthquake at Honshu. One earthquake just off of Honshu, a 4.6 earthquake. What else is going on that they're not telling you about? Not telling any of us. Over at Noto Peninsula on the western side of Japan, remember we had what amounted to an 8.5 earthquake here just 1 month ago. We're still seeing aftershocks. USGS doesn't believe in showing these to us. They have no intention of telling us what's going on. Right here, the Noto Peninsula. 3.2 earthquake. Small earthquake. Just south of there, a 3.4. South of there, a 2.7. And just barely south of there, there's a 3.6. This area is going to continue to see earthquakes, even months or years from now. USGS may or may not show them to us, but be advised, there are still people that are mourning their dead there as a result of that earthquake. Over 3,500 people injured, 175 people dead as a result of that earthquake. And USGS does not have the huevos to keep us in contact with the people of Japan who lost their loved ones. One more earthquake here to the south, Kyushu, Japan. This is a moderate 4.4 earthquake, 34 kilometers deep, just off the southeast coast of Kyushu, Japan. Interesting that they don't want to tell us about it. Further south over here in the northern Mariana Island area, this is another 4.8 earthquake. This is the last earthquake I'm going to show you today. A 4.4 earthquake northwest of Dededo Village, Guam. Dededo Village, Guam. Guam is the U.S. territory island here, right there. It's a huge naval facility of the U.S. Navy. A 4.8 moderate earthquake here, 151 kilometers deep. One more detail that the USGS is not going to tell us about. Over here, south of Taiwan, the Chinese military had a heart attack this morning. The U.S. Navy sailed its fleet over here just north of Luzon Island, Philippines. It was too close to Taiwan, and the Chinese got their pants in a knot because they claim some land, some islands over here in the Philippine Sea. And the United States Navy came within distance of those islands, and China military had a heart attack this morning. Don't forget, We're already in World War III, whether anyone wants to admit it or not. Chinese are just waiting for the United States to be embroiled someplace else, just enough for the United States to be caught off guard. The Chinese are threatening to take Taiwan any minute. The only reason they haven't done it before now is because they haven't had their ships ready. Yes, that's a poor excuse from the Chinese military, but that's what they're telling us. The Chinese could take Taiwan. Something else that's happened over near the Red Sea. Let's go over here to the Mediterranean. Okay? We have several ocean passageways. The Suez Canal, for one. The U.S. Navy is over here in the Eastern Med. Iran is supporting the Houthis over here from Yemen. The country's called Y-E-M-E-N, Yemen. Yemen Houthis attacked 2 United States supply ships earlier. And yes, the United States military had a cow. Yemen got attacked again today, and Iran got its shorts in a knot over that. Not just Iran. Lebanon, Syria, and Turkey got their shorts in a knot because the United States military was trying to protect 2 of its DoD supply ships down here going through the canals. The Houthis want complete control. They don't want any of the world's shipping to go through here. They want everybody to do and say what they want to say. Do you think China's not watching this? And Russia is not watching this? You better believe they are. The United States attacking Yemen for about the 10th or 15th time in the past 2 weeks. Because Yemen and Iran are buddies. Okay? Russia and China are just waiting for the United States to get embroiled in World War III here, protecting Israel. That is when the Chinese will go after Taiwan and will be supported by their buddy Russia. Yes, Chinese President Xi Jinping has been talking to Putin. Yeah, they have. They're buddy-buddy now, sharing military resources. Nobody's talking about it, though. Nobody's talking about it. But I had a video that was sent to me that shows Putin talking about what's going on here in the United States with our elections. He's saying that our politicians here in the United States are so caught up with themselves that they're not paying attention to anybody else and whatever else is happening in the world. Do you think that Russia and China are paying attention to the U.S.? Oh, you better believe it. They're just waiting. They're just waiting for the elections to get into high gear. They are just waiting for other military action over in the Western Med, and then look out. Okay? Miss Elise saying willfully blind or ignorantly blind. Yes, absolutely. Folks, the United States, being the leader of the world, ought to be doing something besides the blind leading the blind. And yes, the U.S. President is just that, blind. Blind as a cowbell. Ringing, but nobody's hearing it. Unreal. Folks, you and I need to be ready for what's going on. We need to be cognitively aware of what is going on in our world and everywhere around us. Because if we're not, we're going to get ourselves in deep yogurt. Deep, deep trouble. Again, I wanted to talk about New Madrid, and then I got caught up in everything else, and I had to take care of an emergency at home. Tomorrow I want to talk about the New Madrid fault. I have all the data lined up. Folks, we've had earthquakes on the New Madrid fault. We've talked about it. Even more today. Guaranteed, the New Madrid fault is going to pop. It's going to pop at the least convenient time for any of us. Just like the Cascadia earthquake is going to happen. Are we ready? Are we prepared? Do we have an emergency plan? I will bet you again, not even 20% of us have an emergency plan. Mine is right up on my bookshelf behind me, and I take it down to look at it on a regular basis. Incredible. Demon Catman said a 5.0 just happened over there in the Atlantic Ocean, in the mid-Atlantic. Let me take this down here again and set this map back up here. A 5.0 earthquake anywhere here in the middle Atlantic Ocean is troublesome. Troublesome. Why? Because the mid-Atlantic fault going straight up the mid-Atlantic Ocean is expanding. I showed you the damage over in Iceland. The mid-Atlantic fault is tearing Iceland apart from the middle. It's tearing the mid-Atlantic Ocean apart as well. We don't see it, but I can guarantee you that the mid-Atlantic is being torn apart. The Atlantic fault is pushing Europe to the east. It's pushing the North American continent to the southwest. I also have seismograms to show you earthquakes on the East Coast. Earthquakes on the East Coast. And there are a lot of them. There are plenty of them. I want to show you earthquakes in eastern Canada. I'll do that tomorrow night. Be advised, the mid-Atlantic is very busy, regardless of what the USGS wants to say. But of course, they're not showing it yet. Heaven forbid. Heaven forbid they can be honest with anybody. Folks, I want to do this. We come to the end of our program. It's nearly 10 p.m. Before I leave you here tonight, I want to leave you with a thought. I haven't showed you this scripture in a very long time. I've decided to show it to you tonight. One of my most favorite scriptures throughout the scriptures. This one is in the New Testament, in the beginning of the book of Philippians. Rob 52 knows where it is. I shared this scripture with Rob, one of my best friends. It says in chapter 1 in the Philippians, verses 3, 4 and 5. I thank my God upon every remembrance of you, always in every prayer of mine, for you, all making with joy, making requests with joy, for your fellowship in the gospel from the first day until now. Brothers and sisters, I love you. That was Paul talking to the Philippians. Throughout Philippians, every chapter, Paul tells the Philippians how much he loves them and cares for them. I care for each of you. I care for your safety. I care for your well-being. That is why I am here. That is exactly why I am here. One of my associates, her name is Times and Signs. She's not here with us tonight. I was hoping she might be here. She's helped me bring this information to you throughout the years. She's my go-to person. She's helped us with videos. She's been my webmaster over on our web page. Yes, we have a web page, folks. Down beneath this video here, in the top of our program description, you'll find our emails. You'll find where you can donate to our program in the PayPal and Venmo locations. You'll also find our web page. Times and Signs has helped me keep it current, showing you earthquakes and volcanoes that are going off all around the globe. I am very thankful for her. She's done a yeoman's job. I want to thank all of our mods here. We appreciate and love you all. Please know that. We couldn't do this job without you. We want to thank everyone that is here, not just in the chat, but those people that are viewing and listening to our program tonight. Thank you for being here. Miss Lisa's link, it's down in the top of our program description, like I told you. Okay? There's a link there to our website. Okay? Rob52 just put it on our chat. So now you have it in the chat. Thank you, Rob. God bless you, brother. I love all of our mods here. I couldn't do this job without you. You folks are everything. Folks, I ask the Lord to bless you. We will be back here tomorrow evening, same time, same bad station. This time, closer between 6 and 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. Again, my wife had an emergency before I came on the air, and I had so many things I needed to tell you. That's why we're running so late now. Folks, if you have not already, give us a thumbs up. The thumbs up is just one analytical factor that YouTube uses to rate this channel to see if they will let anybody else see this channel. Also, the amount of time that you watch this channel is also carefully monitored by YouTube. If you're spending 10 or 15 minutes here, you're not getting the full benefit of this program. The average length of time that people watch this program is between 22 and 28 minutes. I would love to see that closer to 30 minutes or longer. Because if you're not watching this program, you're not getting any benefit from it. Please, folks, share this program far and wide. Share it with your family, your extended family, your neighbors, your friends, your social media contacts, and even the people you work with. Everybody needs what we have in this program. We're trying to keep a heads up on everything that's going on around the world to help protect you. Tomorrow night, if we have time, I also want to talk again about emergency preparedness kits. I want everybody to have an emergency preparedness kit. So we're going to talk about that again tomorrow night. God be with you. God bless you and protect you. God be with you. until we meet again. We will see you on the other side. Have a good night, folks. If anything else happens tonight, we'll be back here on the air to show you and talk about it as soon as the information becomes available. Until then, good night, everybody. I love you very much, and God loves you as well. Good night, guys. Much love.